Well, today we want to talk about our communities, and we want to talk about how we can become more aware of the needs that are all around us. And I have a great panel with me today. I'm so happy to have them here. First, I have Jeff Shinabarger, and Jeff is the author of More or Less, and he's the founder of Plywood People. We're so glad to have you. Thanks for being here today. We have Krista Doe, who is the Director of Family Services at the Neighbor to Neighbor Center in Hamilton. It's great to have you. And down at the end, we have Helen Johnson, and she's the National Director of Christians Against Poverty. So we just want to take a few minutes today, and we just want to talk about how we can be meeting the needs in our communities around us. And Jeff, I just finished your book, More or Less, and it was really inspiring. And your tagline was choosing a lifestyle of excessive generosity, which I think fits into this discussion. What was the thing that started you on this journey in this book to just live a lifestyle of being generous?
Yeah, for me, it was a neighbor of mine. His name was Clarence, and it was the first time I had to wrestle with how to love my neighbor when my neighbor had no home. So he lived in my neighborhood. He came to my front door, but he was homeless. Mm-hmm. And that relationship challenged me, understanding what I have been given, what my responsibility is with that, and how to interact with a person that saw the world very different than me, but in my own neighborhood. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in our neighborhoods, depending where we are, it's not always easy to see the needs that are around us. And Krista, you are the director at a food bank. So talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing right now. I read an article saying that almost 1 million families now in Canada are using food banks. What have you seen over the last year or so, like trends that you notice when it comes to food banks?
Certainly. I think we are seeing more families who are working but still struggling to make ends meet, which is a huge issue. The minimum wage isn't enough to actually sustain a family. Even if 2 people in the family are working for minimum wage, they're still living below or just at the poverty line. So that's a very concerning thing. We've actually increased the hours that we are open to include evening hours and weekend hours so that we can respond to that need. Mm-hmm. Folks are working, but they still need to come in to use a food bank.
Yeah. So there's an increase definitely in what people are requiring just to survive almost.
That's right.
Helen, talking to you, Christians Against Poverty, the organization that you're with, explain to us what your ministry is that you do.
Yeah, we recognize that churches really want to provide solutions to people in their communities. Churches want to reach out, build relationships and help people, and we offer really practical tool to help them do that, but also to meet the needs of debt and poverty and food insecurity by helping the churches actually offer either in-depth debt counselling for people who are just really in really needy situations, or offering money education courses, the Cap Money course, to help all of us actually manage our finances better, build budgets, and know where our money's going so we can be proactive in that.
Yeah, that's great. You mentioned food insecurity. Can someone just explain that? It's a new term that I didn't really know what that meant. What does that mean, food insecurity?
I think I can speak to that.
Okay.
Food insecurity refers to the instance by which people don't have enough money to buy healthy, nutritious food. Mm-hmm. When you look at what a family that's living in poverty might be spending on housing, they're spending 50 to 75% on housing. So that means that they're not really able to afford healthy food. Mm-hmm. And that's a concern. And that creates a whole sort of instability or insecurity in one's life.
Yes.
And in a family's life.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I'd like to go now to a clip because, we're talking about these issues that are around us. So I'd like to then talk about, how we can be part of the solution and what we can do, even thinking creatively to help meet these needs. But let's go to a clip. This is John Kirby from Christians Against Poverty, and let's just see what he has to say about this.
I think from our point of view, hey, call me naive, but I believe that it's been since the creation of the church in Acts that as a church, we're really supposed to get out there and make a difference in the society we're in. And let me tell you, this society here in Canada needs a change. It needs to change. It needs some men and women of God who've got some different thinking around what makes life worth living, who've got some different thinking around the worth of people, who need to kind of rise up and do something about the poverty in your nation, but do it in Jesus' name. Not just help people out of debt, but also we are Christians Against Poverty. We offer to pray with people. We're not ashamed of the gospel. We only work through churches. We want to bring life transformation work through debt counselling, which we do around the world. 50,000 people have been reached, since we started. We are world class at changing people's lives through debt counselling. But there's only one person who changes a life completely, as my life was changed, and that's Jesus Christ. And he's to be found in the church, and we need to take that out to the communities. But we cannot do it without empowering the church. But the good news is the church is ready and waiting. We're astonished by what we've seen.
Okay, so how do we make a difference? How do we go out, as he was saying, into the world, and how do we help with this problem? Jeff, I'd like to talk to you because your book is just filled up with creative ideas of just ways and things that you've done too. I love your chapter on the kitchen pantry, and you talked about that in your interview with Moira about how you just ate through everything in your pantry, just realizing how much that you actually did have. So what are some ideas, like how can we start to make a difference and actually help people around us?
Well, I think it usually starts with a relationship. So like, it's interesting when I talk about my story of Clarence,
Yes.
I know his name.
Yep.
I know his story. He was a neighbor of mine. Like these are real people.
Yep.
When you talk about poverty, it becomes this really big, broad topic, and it becomes unpersonal, right?
Yep.
So I think the first thing I try to encourage people is who do you know? Who are you in relationship with that are having these tensions? One thing my wife and I realized when we were wrestling through some financial things, even within our church community, is we had this practice of going out to eat after church.
Yes.
And when we started talking about this with our community, what we realized is we were causing some of our great friends to go into debt because we were going out to eat. And it started to have this conversation, what if we had meals together? It was like it began to have an honest conversation through relationship. And then you start realizing where people are at in life, and you contribute in that way.
Yeah, so looking around and seeing right around us, the people we know, how we can help. Start there. We have to start somewhere, right? Krista, what for you, working in a food bank where you're meeting the needs, how can people help where you are?
Absolutely. I think I really like Jeff's point about making relationships, and I do think that places like food banks, social service organizations, they really do look at making relationships with folks that are coming in to seek support and assistance and help. So recognizing that from a food bank perspective, it's really helpful when people donate to us. Understandably, I can, there's obviously, that's an obvious one. What is also maybe lesser known is that food doesn't travel alone. So in order to administer and get the needs out there, we really do have to donate money along with food. Yeah. And those actually support programs that will target food insecurity as well. Garden projects, bringing in fresh, healthy, local food, and also bringing in community kitchens that can help process things and preserve them to last for a long time or a longer time. So those kinds of things, I think, and those have they also develop community, which is great. Get people together that kind of feel isolated. This is amazing, right?
And make those connections and make that part of
absolutely.
The bettering of relationships.
Yeah.
How about you, Helen? What's something that you think is part of a solution?
Yeah, we see people calling us every week. We have a toll-free number, and people call us because they need help with their debts or because they want to manage their finances better. And we've been really excited to see over 80 churches reach out to partner with us to do something in their community. We've been in Canada for 18 months, but we need more churches to offer a really practical tool that can actually build relationships, meet people in groups or on a one-on-one setting. And just in the last few weeks, we've been invited into people's homes. We can, people from local churches can sit across from somebody and hear their story and offer to pray for them, invite them to church. And it's a great opportunity for the church to say, how can we practically help? Can we invite you to our house for lunch? Can we do some gardening for you? Can we help shovel snow as Christmas comes around? What can we do as a church to show Jesus' love and tell people about Jesus' love in practical ways?
So it's about community, and it's about relationship, and it's exciting. And you know, we can imagine if everyone in their own, you know, because we all have our own little communities, we all have our own groups. If all of us in our own groups decided that we wanted to be part of seeing change in this way, and how could we help, how could we contribute, that would be really, really powerful, I think. And I also think too, I don't know, Jeff, I was I think on your website I noticed your gift card program, and I thought, I love creative ideas, so just share what you do with gift cards.
Yeah,
that
well,
helps others.
we've created all these different experiments that we've tried. Some have worked, some haven't. This is one that has worked. We learned very quickly that the gift card industry is an $8 billion industry. That it's $60 billion industry, $8 billion goes unused every year.
Wow.
And so we said, what if we could start to collect unused gift cards, the one that you have in your purse or your wallet or whatever, as you're thinking about this right now. It's probably sat in there since last Christmas. And what if we could collect those and then give them to people and organizations in need and match needs with these gift cards? So we've been able to give a few $100,000 away in gift cards. Just a simple little project of finding what people have in excess that they don't even realize they have in excess, and using it to do something really great. In the same way, it's like the food pantries. You probably have food in your home right now that you are not using and you have an excess of it. So what if you could contribute that in a local context? I think there's so many little things like that we could do to help others.
Yes, and even in your book you talk too about the clothes we have, the extra clothes that we have, the extra furniture. You know, I love the story how, you know, sometimes you look around and a lot of people have a piece of furniture in their house that they don't really need, they don't really like, and you know how you got some good furniture.
Yeah, that's how we stocked our house, my wife and I. We had this theory that everyone has a piece of furniture that they don't like in their house, and if you just ask them, they'll probably give it to you. And so I think anyone watching this right now, there's something you have. Maybe it's an excess of clothes, maybe it's an excess of furniture, and I'm sure there's some local organization that could benefit, and the people accordingly that could benefit if you contributed it in some way.
Yeah, so yeah.
Perhaps it's time as well. It's if you don't have something tangible, but time is it's very important. Being able to run these programs with volunteers. We see over 500 volunteers as an example, just to administer the food bank, like the operations of the food bank.
Yeah.
So even if you can come in and spend some of your time and help folks out, that's huge.
Yes.
Definitely. And even giving people the tools to help themselves. So we very much focus our debt counselling and the Camp Money course is how do we train people so that they don't need to be going to a food bank for help, but they can actually build their own budget and afford food every week for themselves, and giving them those tools so that they're not relying on handouts, but actually giving them that hand up so that they can cope for themselves.
Yeah. There's lots of, I like this, there's lots of different pieces, and there's lots of different ways that people can get involved, just depending on where they are at in their own life, but we can all be part of change. We can all be part of just making our communities better. And I think that's what I love, is just the idea of communities coming together and supporting those in their communities that need help, because that's what community means. I feel like our younger generation is always, you know, they're very socially active. You know, they want to be involved. How can we get, Jeff, how can we get our kids, how can we get them?
Yeah, I think a really practical thing you could do, in our house we have this, you know, you have the trash and then you have the recycling bin, but we have a third pile we've created, which are things that we want to contribute to someone else. And sometimes those are things that we're not using anymore and it just makes a pile or whatever. But what if you went into your house and you said, what if I gave something that I really loved, that proactively as a way to serve others? So as with kids, you could do that with toys.
Yes.
Or things like that to change this giving mindset of generosity in your family.
Yeah, I love that, a spirit of generosity. Thank you so much for being here today. This has been just some great conversation. I know that it's gotten me thinking about a lot of things in my life and my family, and just how to give back to the community. So bless you all in the work that you do, and thanks for being here today. Thank you.